everybody. This is Joshua Hatton with One Nation Under Whisky Podcast Extra Edition. I'm joined today, and as always, with my good friend, my business partner, the dear Jason Neal Patrick Karras Johnston Yellen, and also, and this is what, 2 weeks in a row with the wonderful, the lovely, the generous Jessica Rabbit Guillermo Lomas.
Hi.
And look at you. You've got, it looks like you're in Finland. Or are you in Sweden right now?
None of those, but it looks like I am. I was going for a mermaid vibe, actually, I've decided. Classic November mermaid. I'm late for Halloween. Call it a dressing up thing.
Okay.
That's okay. As tenuous as I can make the connection between now and the photo behind my head.
Well, it looks like a much nicer place than right now, which is really cold and dreary, or as Jason would say, dreich.
Dreich. Our Scottish listeners are all over that one. That's it's the name of the game. Yeah, no, lovely and sunny and cold in Virginia, but getting to a much higher fall temperature today. So I was saying to you before we hit record that it's one of those days where you dress in thermals because it's a cold, bitter morning, and then by the afternoon it's warmer than a Scottish summertime. And so, yeah, to be fair, I did wear thermals during my Scottish summer times as well. So they can pull double duty.
Yeah. So, well, I'm glad the three of us got together because we're going to do something quite special. We're gonna go back in time, and then we're gonna go forward in time through the lens of bottles, and through the lens of a bit of storytelling, and a bit of dramming. Right. So here we are, Single Cask Nations 2025, nearing, dare I say, 2026, which is really messing with me. We were just
no,
before
you may not say that. I mean, you may not just done.
I know. Like right before we turned on the camera, we were looking at some of the bottling dates of some of these bottles we were talking about, and one of them was like 2014, which was 11 years ago. I was 40. Jess, you were what, 14? You know, Jason was 53, I think.
That's exactly the joke my kids make. Yep. Yep, same thing. Yeah, that happened in the 1850s, Dad. Which birthday was that for you? Your 50th? Like, away with you, cheeky wee monkeys. Children, but there's troublemakers.
There's serious history here, right? I mean, come February 8, when we opened up the floodgates and we said, "Hey, Single Cask Nation doors are open. Purchase memberships. We're going to be selling bottles. We're gonna make this thing live." That was February 8, 2011. You know, that's 15 years. So we have a bit of a history to be talking about.
So not to fix you on our own history, but
was it not February 8? Was it what was it? Shit, God
no,
damn
you're spot on with February 8. It was 2012.
Yeah.
We launched memberships and bottles in 2012. We established in 2011. May of 2011.
May of 2011.
Establishing date.
Yeah.
And then February was going live.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
A very exciting day. The reason that it's easy for me to remember is we actually sold our house in Pullman in May of 2011 and then moved over to the peninsula.
Okay.
And then in 2012, we made the move to Virginia. Mm-hmm. So as we had very important milestones with the company, we had very important milestones personally, selling, leaving Pullman, Tamara getting visiting professorship, Tamara getting a tenure track job, us moving with a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, you know, across the entirety of the United States. So I always remember where I was when these moments were happening for the company. So, big dates.
So do me a favor then, as we're going through this, correct me as I start announcing dates.
I feel like that's always been my role in this company.
I think this is lovely. This is so married couple, like, oh, was it May? No, it was February. I bought a house. You were wearing a dress. You know.
You brought me flowers.
You do know the version I tell of how you two met, depending on the audience, but these are Padcast listeners and potentially Padcast viewers, which I'd still struggle with, guys.
Yep. Viewers,
The version I tell of you is that 2011 was a place where men on Twitter were unstoppable and could do what they want, and that you two met in kind of like a Hallmark movie. I like to really amp up the phone call on Thanksgiving. Just really like this kind of like very romantic notion that you two set off into the sunset. I've told loads of people this now, so unfortunately we are going to have to commission Hallmark to make the movie of it.
I'm here for that. I'm absolutely here. And as we approach Thanksgiving 2025, Thanksgiving 2010 was the phone call that started all of this.
Yeah.
So
you can select who you want to play yourselves in the movie, or you can star yourselves if you feel like you've got your good acting chops.
That sounds like a Padcast listener question. Who would play you in the Hallmark movie of the origins of this company?
Oh, wow. So I have it in my head that Keanu Reeves would play me, but it would be Keanu Reeves who had maybe taken acting lessons. No, I take that back. I actually think he's a really good actor, and he's a good bass player.
I also he's one of these characters. I think probably the first time I encountered Keanu Reeves,
he's very
I only know him as, my brain refuses to move on from him outside of the Matrix. So the Neo version of Keanu Reeves being the person who starts up Single Cast Nation seems a bit weird, but I'll go with it for the sake of the movie. That's
the fact it's not the Bill and Ted version of Keanu Reeves starting up Single Cast Nation.
Yeah, but that's also because famously I've never seen any movies. So the fact that I've seen any of the Matrix films is a miracle. So
see, I think it's the River's Edge version. There's like 7 listeners that know the River's Edge version of Keanu Reeves. Jason, you should know that. Dennis Hopper was in River's Edge.
Oh, okay. Yeah. For the early stuff, isn't it? What's the Idaho one? My Private Idaho with River Phoenix?
Oh, yeah. That was a weird movie. Oh, we're getting down weird rabbit holes, Jason.
Hey, that's what Keanu does for you. You follow the Keanu oeuvre. These types of things happen.
Yeah.
There you go. I would be booking the white-haired fellow from Mad Men. I don't know the name of that actor, but I like some of his work.
Yes, yeah, I like him a lot too. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Which really just banks the white hair portion of that. I'm really not sure if we have anything else in common, but Jessica famously knows Mad Men.
Bits of it. I think I started watching it. I don't know. I've actually never thought about who would play me. Maybe by the end of this recording, once we've had some inspiration whiskeys, I'll come back to you on that. Or the Padcast listeners can tell me who.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Listeners
be
and
kind,
viewers
listeners,
are all over
be
this.
kind.
They've got thoughts and opinions.
Yeah.
It is funny though when you bring up Twitter, and that's the thing Josh and I have talked about over the years. Is that really was a remarkable place, and what a remarkable time for it. Like, and hey kids, be careful with what I'm about to say here. This might not sound recognizable, but it was such a supportive place. It was such a connected place. Like, what are we talking here? 2009, maybe as early as 2008. But that in the lifetime of Twitter really is a lifetime ago. Yeah. But Richard Patterson was there typing in all caps. You could access John Campbell when he was still with Lafroig as easily as you could contact Gal Granov sitting in Israel. Like it really felt like a community, a meaningful, supportive, positive community.
Yeah. Hashtag FF Follow Friday, right? We were like, oh, let's follow everybody, and you get to communicate and have little conversations with everybody. It was great.
This is actually making me feel a bit sick with how wholesome it is. The most surprising thing, and the bit that's really getting the Padcast listeners screaming, is the idea that back in those days, Jason had social media.
Well, I walked into that one, Jess. I really did.
You just admitted on Wax that you willingly participated in hashtag FF to shout at Richard Patterson in capitals. That's word for word what you said.
Yeah, I had Facebook in 2006. That's how remarkable. When you still needed a university email address to access it, I had Facebook. It was wild, absolutely wild. And I think 2007, 2008, they started opening it up.
2007, because that's when I got it. Yeah.
Okay, so then that moved on there. So I can't remember the app, the program that I used to access Twitter, but I could really just follow the Whisky people in Twitter. It was really awesome, really, really cool place. Man. Yeah, that takes me back to a very different time.
Oh, the good old days.
I know, now I'm getting nostalgic.
Yeah.
All right, move us along, Joshua.
Yeah. So here we are. We met on Twitter. We met. I don't know. We met somewhere, and then we had conversations on Twitter.
We legit met on Twitter. Legit on Twitter.
And you were like, "What do I have in common with some guy that was at Yossi Yitzhak? Like, who's this Jew?"
Yeah, I'm sure those are
I potentially
definitely
said
not
young
words
fellow, but you're writing the script for the movie here by yourself.
Yeah, here we go. The anti-Semitism was strong with this one. This is what I felt.
Honestly, it was father, dad, bassist, and I was like, oh no, I don't think I want to talk about any of those three things.
Oh yeah, that's true. It's like weird. But so here's the thing. So I tell this story, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because here's a chance for you to correct me. When I tell a bit of our origin story, and I talk about the Thanksgiving call, here's how I present it. I say, on Thanksgiving Day 2010, I give Jason a call, and I say, "Hey, Jason, what are you doing?" And Jason responds, and he says, "Having Thanksgiving dinner with my family. What are you doing?" That's how
hilarious. None of that.
Man, this is like word for word how I tell this story.
Okay.
None of that's true.
That's true. Okay, what actually happened?
Honestly, do you want me to write this for you? Because that's kind of how I tell this story. And then I definitely have Jason being semi-disgruntled about having his dinner interrupted. And then there's a line where you're like, "Hey, we should start an independent bottling company." And Jason's like, okay. And then you high five and you skip off into the sunset. And that's how Single Cast Nation was born.
Do we hold hands?
Yeah, obviously.
At least. Yeah, okay.
Working out which actors are going to play us in the Hallmark version of this story 2 decades in the future.
Adam and Keanu Reeves, exactly. Yeah.
I told this story every night in Germany when I was on the road show with Tim earlier this year. So there are tons of Germans who can tell you that this is how the company started.
So I haven't dressed it up because I like the real version of this.
Well, I can't remember how it goes. I think I've just sort of like eased into this story, and I've forgotten, how it is. I've played telephone with myself.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Joshua had texted me the day before, and had said, "Hey, I've got a crazy idea. Do you have time to talk? To tell me how crazy this idea is." And so I knew that I had time to sit on it. And, I had already started to think he's going to mention bottling whiskey, right? No one else was doing it. No one else had done it in, Scottish tradition while being based in America. And I thought he's going to float this. You had your blog, Joshua. I had my blog. We had following, we had Twitter, the world was our oyster. And so we agreed that I would take your call early on Thanksgiving morning because I was in Palo Alto. So I ducked out the house and sat in the car. And then I took your call while sitting in the car outside. And very quickly, because we didn't have too long because it was Thanksgiving Day, you got to like, "I'm thinking about starting an independent bottling company." And I famously, in my own head, said, "That's $1 million idea." Little did he know how hard it is to make $1 million while being an independent bottler. But yeah, it was like, no, that's a fantastic idea. You should absolutely do that. Let me know how I can support you.
Yeah.
And you were like, well, I want you to be a 50-50 partner. And it was like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the part I hadn't thought about in my head, was that it was going to be a split enterprise. And so I was like, yeah, leave it with me. Let me go talk to Tamara. And then I walked back into the house, immediately walked past Tamara and said, I think I've just had a life-changing conversation with Joshua. And she, much to her regret, said, I will support you in whatever you decide to do. And she has reminded me every day of every year since that was a mistake and not the thing she should have said in that moment.
Wow.
But here we are. Who had the last laugh? This guy. Suck it, Trebek. So,
this is good. I don't think I knew about the phone call in the car. I'm adding that into the routine.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because it just seems so American. Why do all of your important phone calls happen in a car? All of your Zoom calls happen in a car? Is it because you don't want each other to hear what's being said? Is it like a secret?
It was more the fact, so what would that have been? So that was 2010. So I had a 3-year-old and a newborn in a house with their 3 cousins, where the eldest was 11 and the youngest had just had his first birthday, and family were in the kitchen getting food ready for later in the day. The house was just pandemonium. And so jumping out into the car was essentially it was a quiet room is all it was. Yeah. And I could actually hear the conversation and not be distracted, which again is likely why the conversation was a short one and to the point, because I had left Tamara literally holding the baby. And Joshua, for you at that point, you would have had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. Like thinking where birthdays fall, you would have had both of them had their birthdays. Yeah, so maybe a 4-year-old.
So it would have been 4 and 2. Yeah, 4 and 2. 4 and 2.
Right.
Yep. Because August and September. Yeah. Yep.
Right. So there's another busy, noisy house where, which again, and this is very much to Tamara's point, the fact that we had that going on with our families and still A, had the idea to launch the independent bottling company, and B, agreed to join him in the independent bottling company was like, oh shit. Like again, and you've said this in different presentations we've made, Joshua, but to not know what we didn't know, right, is why we did this, right? Every time we've looked back, like, how did we even start that? Like, what did we do? There was nobody able to give advice on starting a Scottish-style independent bottling company in America while living in America. There was nobody able to give that advice.
I think we were fueled on like sheer ignorance and stupidity.
100%. Oh,
right.
Tamara has reminded me of that early and often as well. To not know what you don't know, it really is a blessing.
Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. So I remember asking you, and you said, basically, good luck with that. How can I support you? And it's like, you don't understand. I want you to be a 50-50 partner. And then of course we asked Seth Claskin to join us, and he was there for the first few years of that.
Indeed.
But we had, the things that we had, how should I say this? Well, we had ignorance, and we didn't really know what we were getting ourselves into. At the very least, because we were bloggers, we had connections to distilleries, and we had our connection to Impex. We had an importer, right?
Yeah.
And we had, the connections to get us cask samples, and at least, a way in which we thought we can get liquid here and people we can reach out to for advice. And because of Impex, we were able to have our connection to Kilhoman and to Aaron. And because of them, we actually got Anthony Wills of Kilhoman to say, yes, we will sell you a cask. Yes, we will bottle this Kilchoman for you in your livery. Now, this isn't the Kilchoman. This is our Glen Murray, which I'm about to pour, right? But yeah, so we, in our first year, we bottled, 3 casks. It was our Kilchoman, our Aaron, and our Ben Riach. But I think famously back to, and again, this is to Impex, we had our connection to Aaron. It was Aaron. I think back to this all the time with you and Mitchell and Louisa Young, and they said we want to be your first. We want to be the first cask that Single Cask Nation bottles. And we were no one. Like, why? Like, that seemed so incredibly special that they saw a value in us that we didn't even know we had, or we thought we knew we had, but like, really, what value did we have? They saw it. I don't know if we saw it, you know.
But I think with any venture like that, I think when someone sees it in you, you start to see it in yourself.
Yeah.
And in that first year, we also added in the Dalmore, the Lafroig, and that Glen Murray that you just lifted up there, right? And so we started to tell that story. I remember when we should probably pour right now because there's more to be said here, but now I've lost my thought because I just started thinking about the special bottle that I've got just off screen that I know the three of us share over here. But I remember as we were building and we were watching, sales, once we actually started selling memberships and selling bottles, I remember being on Shopify, our platform of choice back then, and a little nod to the present and future here too, is I was watching that, and I remember Shopify put up a stat that was like 7% of new ventures survive beyond 18 months. And I remember seeing that probably 18 months to 2 years into us selling bottles and selling memberships. And we were growing and we were adding new relationships. And the thought that we could be one of 7% was really phenomenal. And that had stuck with me moving forward as well. And now to be sitting 15 years on from the very first phone conversation, right? It's remarkable. Again, I'm not trying to say this in a boastful manner. It's more, I'm as surprised as anybody that we've gone from little to no chance, to 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 little to no chance. And we still are here. We're still doing it. We're still growing. We're adding people. It continually makes me hugely appreciative of the nation and the support from the nation.
Yeah.
That was the angle I was going for, not the boastful, we did it when no one else could, but more like we found a nation and the nation lifted us up.
Yeah, really quickly to that point, part of the reason why I got this idea of starting an independent bottling company and the idea of the nation, of creating this, initially it was this, virtual community of whiskey people to drink with. And this still rings true to this day, almost 15 years later, actually more than 15 years later, right? Because, we had this conversation in 2010, is I didn't have a whiskey club. I didn't have a whiskey group back then that I can drink with. To this day, I still do not have a local whiskey club to call my own.
That's so sad.
Jess has reached the downturn in the story. This is the part where you reach for the tissues, Jess.
Oh my God. And now what happens is, I think this is all just a big ruse, right? This is 15 years of him trying to recruit people to Connecticut to drink some whiskey with him, right? He's really playing the long game here. That's what
right.
I could do all these other things, and then on top of it, I'll just be like, so you're all coming back to mine then for a dram, right? Pile on in.
This is 10,000 people in the nation, all back to Joshua's.
I just wanted to start a big group therapy session, really.
He foresaw what Twitter was going to turn into. That's what this was. I'll get them in person. Then when the internet disappears, we can carry on being friends.
But I really did think, I could not be the only one. I couldn't be the only one who didn't have a group of people to geek out with, to enjoy whiskey in the way that I do. Now, do I have people I can drink with? There's no doubt about it. I've got people I can drink with, but I enjoy whiskey on a certain level that not everybody enjoys whiskey on in a geeky manner. And that's and I still don't necessarily have that, and it's something that I wanted to create, and it's something that I wanted to start with you and grow and anyway, that was sort of an ulterior motive of the nation of Single Cask Nation.
Yeah.
Do you see the speed at which he walked that back? He has got friends. It's okay, listeners and viewers. There are people out there for Joshua. It's just that they don't like whiskey. Despite this man having a pub near him called Scottish Dave's, couldn't find a single person to recruit to a whiskey club. So... Sorry, that's really harsh of me. I'm glad that you found us a group therapy session. You started a podcast. You really evolved as a white man from Twitter in the 2011s. Moving into white men who run podcasts. 100%. I have to be careful. Sometimes when I tell this joke about you two starting this at a point when white men on the internet were unstoppable, there are some rooms I realize that I can't tell this joke in and it only gets like half a laugh. And I think, well, bailed. That's not quick. Change the tone. It's not appropriate here. So then I don't follow it up by saying, and off the back of the success of their internet-based business, they started a podcast.
I like to think we blazed a trail for other middle-aged white men behind us.
It's very kind of you.
And that's very important to me,
Does that make us alpha?
We're getting worryingly close to Andrew Tate. Quick, run away.
This is very uncomfortable.
I don't want to get toxic here, but anyway, I tell you, this Glen Murray is quite nice. Even though it's just the
I say so myself. Can you remind us, or maybe the newer people,
way than most people around him?
Yeah, he really appreciates it slowly. Could you maybe remind people who are unfortunate and didn't manage to try it, or could you tell us while Joshua's nosing it, maybe Jason could tell us about what the first release, or what this Glen Murray that Joshua's drinking is? How about that?
That's a good question. Is this the 12-year-old from the first year that was all 12 years in fresh bourbon?
Correct.
Yeah. So bright, so fruity. Definitely in those early days, an opportunity to show somebody just how a single cask can shine, but also to show people the role of cask strength. And, again, we've always said when we were out on the road, people didn't know these distilleries. People didn't know single casks. People didn't know cask strength. There was heavy lifting to be done on what were we even selling to people. And one of the most amazing things for me, and maybe for all three of us sitting here, is over that decade, and now obviously the additional 5 years, but over that decade, like the rise of single casks and the rise of cask strength.
Yeah.
We didn't see it coming, generally speaking. We thought we would have an opportunity within a small corner of whiskey geekdom to do something worthwhile and delicious. But the fact that single cask, and then to see the number of producers, the OBs, who are putting out single casks at cask strength, to see the number of distillery offerings where you can show up and fill your own cask. Like those things to that extent didn't exist when we launched. You always talked, and you know this, Jess, you always talked about where could you go to a distillery and get something unique, get something special. Which distillers were putting out the occasional single cask or a cask strength. But you really had to know your stuff, and you really, again, spent time talking to other people who knew their stuff to really get the lay of the land. This kind of general knowledge of single cask at cask strength was new. And so that Glen Murray really allowed us to tell that story. But at the same time, so did the Arran, right? Arran, 6 years bourbon, 6 years Pinot Noir.
Correct.
To bring it up to 12 years old, like to even be telling that story of additional maturation on a single cask that went out at cask strength. So there were definitely elements of the company that we were able to discuss through the casks that we were putting out there, and then really turning heads and really having people say, like, this is really terrific. This is unlike anything else I've got access to. And so that was really special.
That's really good. You've answered a bunch of questions I had sort of started lining up in my mind, because it's something I get asked about a lot. I think even in 2025, when whiskey is much more kind of globally accessible, get me, it's a question I get asked quite a lot about.
That's why I drank. When Jess says accessible, everybody has to drink.
Oh, God. That's for the After Hours podcast where we explain that in joke. One of the questions I get asked a lot about in the tastings that I run, especially where I'm kind of trundling through our history and explaining Single Cask Nation, but a little bit about what indie bottlers do, is what did the scene look like in the US when SCN was launched? Because I don't think it was miles behind what was happening in the UK. There definitely are some notable and significantly older than us independent bottlers around.
Of course.
But it's funny, you talking about distillery handfills made me think about when I was a child and we used to go to Glenfiddich Distillery. As I famously told a lot of times, my parents weren't really drinkers. But I do remember being in the distillery centre and them having this big, it's still there now, like, a big cask and all the bottles where you could fill it yourself. And both of my parents being very like, do not touch, do not go near that. It's very, very expensive. I guess because my parents had no concept of how much whiskey costs and still don't, and we'll leave it that way. The idea that was it was almost like a shrine in the corner of the distillery. It was such an unusual thing. And I don't think that was single casks. I think it was probably their 15-year-old that they offer at a slightly stronger strength. And I think if now I would have known the prices, I would have been making my parents buy them all and put them in the loft or somewhere suitable for future entertainment. But there certainly wasn't much of it here. So my original point was, what sort of reception were you getting outside of the nation when you told people, yeah, we're bottling whiskies that are being bottled from Scotland at this higher strength? Were people kind of like, ugh, what's that? Are you mad?
There was definitely are you mad? I think back to what Joshua said a moment ago about the Impex connection, which was in that first year, we were pouring the distillery bottle next to our single cask selection. So we were talking on both sides of the fence, both as OBIB, but also as 40-something% and cask strength. And so I really used all of those as the jumping off point for, here's what you've been used to in stores. And again, bless Impex, bless Sam Filmus. He talked to producers in Scotland about bringing in an entry bottling at 46% and not the 43s. As you're saying there, independent bottlers in Scotland, I think of Connoisseur's Choice, which was a line I would purchase from. They were 40%.
Yeah.
Think about some of the Cadenhead bottles where Cadenheads were hugely well known. 40%ers, right? 40-something percenters. And so to be able to show, here's what Kilchoman puts out, here's the side of Kilchoman that they want to show you, and here's the access we have to the single cask at cask strength, we can add to your experience. That was always the goal for us. And so while, yes, folk were like, what's that you're doing? It was also, we made sure to explain what we were doing before we made the reveal. So we were setting people up for what we were about to reveal to them. And then they were like, ooh, 58? Like, whoa, woo. And obviously now the nation is, 60s in our recent Klein Leash, where, 60 point something, 61 point something.
Yeah.
Doesn't drink anywhere near that. Folk are absolutely loving it. So it's a completely different landscape. It's really wild where we're at now.
Yeah, I think we were trying to sell a number of things. We had to sell people on the idea of a distillery that they had never heard of before. We had to sell people on the idea of a single cask and what that is, on an ABV that they had never experienced before, on the fact that if they liked it, they had to buy a membership from us. They had to spend money just to gain access to our whiskeys because, we had that model in those early days, right? And they couldn't just go to their local shop to pick up those bottles. So, it wasn't just a matter of pushing water uphill. It was a matter of pushing water uphill at a very steep grade in those early days. At least that's how it felt to me.
Yeah, but I would add the labels to that conversation, which is look at the storytelling, and by that I mean the cask story we're telling on those labels, right? Where it's important to know when it was distilled, when it was bottled, the cask it was in, right? And obviously a strength, obviously number of bottles. I can't believe there's only 148
Right.
of those Glen Murrays. Talk about not good for a budget. Talk about $1 million idea. And then to have that truncated note there, just as that little jumping off point. One of the things we always said, if you're pouring that whiskey for a friend, that bottle's in your hand. Right now, and again, I think this speaks to the evolution. I don't want to get too far ahead on labels. We'll show what in another minute here. But now that truncated note doesn't need to take up space on a label because everyone's got their phone in their hand. And I would definitely say for us having our conversation in 2010, right? As much as yes, we were on the phone to each other. You didn't have your phone in your hand. If you were pouring whiskey for somebody, your phone was probably away. You weren't pulling it out. You weren't checking your texts, and you probably weren't taking photos for social media. We had a lovely corner of Twitter, so we potentially were. But
you 100% were. Don't kid us on.
Thank you, Jess.
You were always on your phone. People are like, Jason, put your phone down, for God's sake.
He's creating new hashtags, the whole thing.
Hashtagging everything. Hashtag single malt. Hashtag.
And so I do feel like we definitely had a position of what needs to be on the label. And as we went into the next iteration with our 2017 retail launch, and before we got to 19 with Jesse's global retail launch, there was that sense of what story would a bottle need to tell on a shelf. And I think that became an evolution for us from what do we have in the online realm to what do we need to have in the retail realm. And then again, I'm laying breadcrumbs here into the future, but then where has that allowed us to take this next iteration of labels? And I'll...
Jason totally stole my segue, which actually Joshua had said without even knowing in an unscripted way. He talked about walking into stores and picking bottles off shelves. And I was going to be like, so how did that lead us to the retail? But I remembered I have an early retail under my desk here with 1 or 2 bottles of labels and the first retails. So I have an early-ish retail bottle here. Let me see. Oh, no, maybe not. It's a March one. But I was going to ask you, at what point do we go from the first labels? So that's the Glen Murray that you held up. And I have a special bottle of here, something else, which we'll get to. Where did the flavometers come from?
Mr. Joshua Hatton.
Was flavometer first in, not the word, which I am still going to trademark. Was that the first time we went into retail that we saw flavometers starting to appear on bottles?
Correct. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We first started putting those onto our labels in 2017. We put them on our retail labels and on our online exclusive bottlings as well. And it was with the idea of really... Yeah, is it on there as well?
Not right away. No, not right away. So
shit.
This is from the very
correction
first.
number 2, listeners and viewers. Correction number 2, listeners and viewers.
Oh, look at that.
Only 2? Wow. My tally is not showing 2.
Shit. All right. Okay.
So I was trying to find on the table this one that Jason's got in his hand. Yeah. So for the benefit of myself in the car in the future.
Indeed.
because you shouldn't drive and watch YouTube at the same time. The police don't like that.
Oh,
Jason
wow,
just
look
held
at
up the
this.
retail bottles before we started adding color to the casks.
Yep.
So that's the first iteration. So we've gone from what Joshua had with Glen Murray to probably what I think is more easily recognized as single cask nation with the cask when the casks were still gray.
Yeah.
The bottle which I found under the table is obviously the next gen, as the kids say. Let's see if this likes my background, where the cask has changed color. And I don't know if this... Nah.
Yeah, there you go. There's
label,
Check 13. What's the bottling date on that, Jess?
That's 2019, but it does feature a flavometer of sorts.
There you go.
Okay. So it was either 2018 or 2019 that the flavometer then was introduced.
Yep.
Obviously not 2017. But the idea behind it was that people typically don't read. And I point this finger directly at myself. But also the fact that, selling, if you're in a retail shop, selling a whiskey bottle is always a hand sell, even if it's an OB, right? Even if it's a distillery's bottling. So when you're selling an independently bottled whiskey, it's a harder proposition. So how can we make, someone who works at a shop, that person's job just a bit easier, and we just give them that cheat sheet? Here, 1 to 10 point scale, floral, sweet, rich, nutty, spicy, earthy, smoky, oaky. And if there isn't someone on the shop floor, then that person who's just perusing the shelf, who just is like, oh my gosh, that's too many words on the flavor notes. They just turn the label a little bit, and there you go. And right. And it was just a nice way to just deliver information really quickly to someone. And we introduced that on the online exclusives at the same time. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but we did it at the same time for online exclusives as we did for the retail labels. Am I correct on that, Jason?
I'd have to do a deeper dive on that one.
Yeah,
I'm sure you're in the ballpark there. I was actually working to throw you a bone here. So for listeners, I'm holding up the mezcal that we did, the 9-year-old mezcal. And I did check, this was bottled in 2018.
Yeah.
And if you keep turning that label for a mezcal bottled in 2018, we have a flavometer on the back of that retail label with, as Jess pointed out, the colored cask to the front here.
That completely makes sense, because here we were in 2017, and we looked at our labels, and if you had all of the bottles on the shelf and all of those casks, Jess, can you pick up that bottle again?
Sure,
for our viewers. Oh no, I'm sorry, not Jess. Jason, your Glen Talkers that you picked up before.
Oh yeah. Glen Rothis.
Glen Rothis, thank you.
That's 3
for the viewers, right? For the viewers, you can see that that cask is just a gray cask. All of our labels look the same. They had that same cask color. So if you were to line all of those bottles up on a shelf, you couldn't tell one bottle from the next, from the next, from the next. So in our 2018 release, we decided, let's change the colors on the cask depending on the region of the distillery, or if it's coming from a different country, something like that. So you had that delineating. And then while we were at it, we said, okay, what else can we put on this label to make people's lives a bit easier, so we can tell a better story about this liquid? So we also added in the flavometer. Yeah.
My favorite bit is that we added colors to denote regionality and source countries, and we never explain it.
Well,
I love it.
Let that be a lesson to people.
But here's another thing too that we don't often talk about. So, our first labels, when it was online exclusive only for our viewers, right here you can see this sort of watermarked Star of David that's just a little off off kilter, right? It's just angled, which Seth Klaskin came up with, which I love, which is just a really nice design. And internally, we thought, does that have some people say, oh, that's only for a certain sect of people? And then we said, when we launch this as retail, whiskey's for everybody, right? And that's what the Jubilee was, right? When we first started the Whiskey Jubilee Festival, it was primarily only Jews that came to it, but by the time it was done, I mean, it was a free-for-all for everybody. I mean, whiskey is an open tent, like everybody come in. So when in 2017, when we launched the retail range and we changed the labels there's no Star of David there. We changed up the labels for our online exclusives. There's no Star of David there. This was pointing out the fact that this is an open tent. Everybody come in. Whiskey is whiskey is whiskey is whiskey, right?
Right. Which I think absolutely on the back of that was the spirit of collaboration since 2011, right? I think showing, and I've always loved this meeting of fists, right?
Yeah.
The fist pump or the fist pound on the spirit of collaboration.
Yeah.
For me has always spoken about the relationships with the producers, but also the relationship with the nation and the fact that we've listened to the nation. What does the nation want, right? We've listened to distilleries that the nation chases, right? And so I think that evolution, I think you're right here, Joshua, pointing out, one of our main messages has been whiskey's for everybody. We're a whiskey community. Come in if you love whiskey. Come in if you want to learn about whiskey. Come in if you have whiskey questions. And the nation will answer those in various places as well. So I think spirit of collaboration, and once that started appearing on labels, that added on to the story. And as you were talking about that evolution of labels, when we redid the retail, we redid the online. And to have the grey cask with the wood grain, and this was bottled 2022, so I'm not making a point with the flavometer here, but the fact that you've got that kind of cask representation there was the idea behind this label. But perhaps, like you've said here about the retail label with the grey cask, where they start to blend together on a shelf since 2017, perhaps the grey online label has started to blend on a shelf. And I sit here as someone who passionately loves that grey wood grain label and remembers the day when we saw that from the graphic designers, and I loved it then and I love it now. But as I quote often, as Heraclitus said, change is the only constant. Change. It's good for me, Joshua. I embrace it.
If you ever get a bad case of Heraclitus, there's a solve for that.
CVS, I've got you covered.
Can we back up just a little bit to you mentioned the nation a few times, through the idea
early
of
and often
spirit of collaboration. And I think the idea of the nation is really important, really, because that's what it's all about. And we've talked about it from the beginning. We talk about it today. And I want to bring this, and this is what I'm going to pour next. And Jess, I think you've got this bottle. Jason, I think you've got this bottle. But this is one that we bottled. It's a Glenglassaugh, and I'm going to read this for those who are listening who can't see it. But this is a special bottle that we did for the founders, for key founders of the nation. We bottled a Glenglassaugh. We didn't make a penny. We just sent out bottles. They didn't even know it was coming to them. It was just a here you go, right?
Once again, putting a road bump in $1 million idea. Here, have some free bottles.
So they didn't know it was coming. Arriving to the door was a bottle of Glenglassa, and it says on the label, "Thanks so much for being such a supportive member of Single Cask Nation. Your support means more than you know and has not gone unnoticed. Please enjoy. Compliments of us in good health."
Yep.
So I'm going to pour a glass, and I'm going to raise a glass to the nation on this one.
Yeah, that's what I've been sipping on while you were on your Glen Murray. It was the Glenglassa that I had.
Yeah. So
really special.
So and there's other bits and bobs along the way. You know, I want to fast forward a little bit here, but there are bits and bobs along the way, right? In 2014, we bottled, you know, American single malt for the first time through Westland 11 years ago. Who was doing that? No one was doing that. Let me get this bottle right. In 2017, we bottled a Glenfarclas with the Glenfarclas name on that. What other independent bottler was doing that? No one was doing these sorts of things. And then fast forward a little more. We're bottling Wild Turkey with the Wild Turkey name on it, right? These are some groundbreaking things that like before, Jason, you weren't tooting horns. I think there's certain things that I think we're okay to be tooting horns on. And that's the American in me. I'm going to toot horns. You can highlight fisting. I'll highlight tooting horns. With the
mine
fist
was fist pounding.
Okay, you can highlight pounding. You can highlight fisting.
Fist pumping was the mistake. That's the we sold out a 24-year-old unnamed Kentucky whiskey in 9 minutes. Yeah. We sold it for too little.
Oh, who's tooting horns now, Jason? Who's tooting horns now?
Did you hear the second sentence?
Yeah, I did.
More road bumps on the road to $1 million.
But right, so here we are. 2017, we changed packaging because we launched retail. We ended our membership program where we were selling memberships, and we just opened the floodgates. We said, you want access to our online bottlings? Just come to our website, purchase our bottles that we sell online, and we do that to this day, right? Just we bottle certain casks for online, buy them, come to the website, become a member of the nation by just join our mailing list, and that happens to this day. But then in 2019, I think a really important, monumental, not shift, but growth to this company was going global, and bringing you, Jess, onto this onto the team was huge and so important, and absolutely the right choice, because you're a dear friend that we've had, and when we were thinking about, you know, we really want to bring this to other markets. How do we make this happen? Who do we bring in? And there was no other choice. There simply was no other choice.
Can be only one. Learned that in Highlander.
Yeah. So my version of telling the story of how I joined the company, I rerun the old phone call, high five, we'll run off into the future scene. Now it's 3 of us running into the future holding hands like some sort of like montage at the end of a movie. I can't believe it's been 6 years, which seems simultaneously not long enough, and also how did time move so quickly?
Absolutely.
COVID. I think this has been such an exciting learning curve. The bit of the story that I always tell, have told literally this weekend, and in London last week when I was working, is I don't know, when we talk about all the firsts and the things that Single Cask Nation has done that don't seem to be occurring elsewhere, the one that I always tell is I don't know of any other independent bottler who started outside of the US and then kind of came home to be in the UK. I can't think of anybody else who's reverse engineered it. There are so many bottlers, especially, you know, like people who are starting up and are not as far into the journey as we are, and they say things like, well, how do we crack America? And first of all, please don't ask me. And second of all, I think we did it at a time when we learned the hardest of the hard bits first. Then we had to learn about Brexit, which maybe if we had started in the UK and established ourselves more in mainland Europe would have been a more a more common thing, I guess, for our contemporaries to have been learning. Whereas we decided we would head on, dive into, thanks to people like Impex, the absurdity that is working with the TTB, is working with transatlantic logistics, is working with, like, what does the 3-tier system look like in the US? Things which are, even today, to people in the UK, fairly alien concepts. I was listening to another podcast today, where they were talking about...
Not a whiskey podcast, I'm sure, because none of those exist.
True crime podcast with a strange corner about whiskey. But talking about things that we talk about all the time, like how sometimes the decisions that the TTB make about things like what is allowed on a label, what's not allowed on a label, can seem totally absurd, but they set the rules. So whatever they say is the thing that goes. And it's funny hearing other people have to learn, like, oh, well, we can't describe it as being like an apple-flavored whiskey because that sounds like we've maybe added apple to the TTB's ears. Obviously not to sensible whiskey people, that we've added apple into the whiskey, and we haven't. We're just describing one person's interpretation of a flavor, but the TTB also have to work with products where they literally have added apple into the liquid. So they have to allow for both sides of that, albeit to whiskey drinkers, that seems absurd. And there isn't a handy guide, as far as I know, that teaches people things like, don't put fruit flavors, don't put taste like tobacco. It's one of these, you have to run hard at a wall, and if you bounce back, okay, you have to pick yourself up, change your approach and go again. So I think we're very lucky in one way to have kind of grasped a lot of that early on, meaning that we have more time to misunderstand how Brexit and the logistics that I work in really can mess you up in a totally different and new, fun way, whilst you're desperately trying to get whiskey out to the world. And I think we did all of that at the same time as me being very new and trying to learn the job on the go at distance from you guys. We're not all sat in an office together. But also then COVID and the way that changed the bits of rules we learned really quickly, completely threw that rule book out. And we kind of had to have a little bit of a do-over. Well, how does this work? The partners that we're working with, how does that affect these people? They used to be able to get pallets into Germany in 3 days, and now it's a fortnight, and the cost is triple. Well, what can we do to look at that? Those kinds of things. And I think those are exciting, many road bumps you're talking about on our path to becoming gajillionaires, whilst also trying to source delicious whiskey and getting into new hands and glasses and over lips, or whatever phrase you want to use for getting people to drink single cask nation. And then eventually, from my perspective, being allowed to meet these people, because COVID kind of stopped that. We did this. We met through Zoom and through various online hosting platforms. And now I can get on a plane and go to Germany. That's exciting.
Right.
Only takes 3 weeks to get through the immigration queue.
Only if you're coming to the US. Can I progress us with, it's been really fun as we've gone through the labels that we're talking about here. It's been really fun kind of showing the markets that I work in. We started out with these labels that were the tall rounds, as we call them, if my camera will let me show you them, with the coloured cask. And then we've progressed on to our lovely Oslo Apotex. And without pushing us too far forwards, there's another new little change coming. And I'm excited about it. And I am a woman who, unlike Jason, absolutely despises change and will do everything within her power to keep everything very much the same for the whole of time. So while Jason's like, yay, let's embrace the change, I'm the one at the back who's like, no, let's not. Maybe I'm downplaying myself a bit. I'm not a total naysayer to change, but I am not the person you come to if you want to kind of G up and run away with a mad idea. So maybe if Joshua had called me on Thanksgiving, we'd have had a very different phone call.
Don't do it. You've got fresh children. Be careful.
Yeah, it's not in my nature to run away with mad ideas. It's definitely the way I was brought up, to get giddy and carried away. Like I was brought up with very kind of rules are there for a reason and we follow them. So it takes me a little bit to kind of put my brain around it, and then I'll come around to the idea. And then once I'm in, I'm 150% in, or whatever percent, I'm like 1,000,000% in. But I have to have had like a little 5 minute to process it. I don't.
Well, I think you do yourself a disservice there, right? When we bring you in, September, October 2019, obviously we didn't know we were on the doorstep of a global pandemic. But the remit was the Queen of the Boxies was coming in to open global markets and take charge of global logistics. Like, that was very much in front of you. And that was a different side of the industry from where you had been. And I feel like you embraced that with both arms. And Japan happened, and Germany happened, and Sweden happened. I think you rose to the task in front of you admirably. And yet you're careful, you're thorough, you're thoughtful. You say you don't, but you definitely do love a good government document to have a good read. I don't know anybody who can get past the first sentence, and you will say things like, they say something weird on page 8. And that's not a normal sentence.
Well, my mother definitely thanks you for noticing that I may have used some ounce of the 2 law degrees I possess and refuse to acknowledge on a daily basis. So that's maybe that's the only bit of my life that allows a thread of what could have been to come through. I think as well, maybe it's I like a challenge. I'm not so adverse to it that I wouldn't look into it. I like the idea of finding a loophole somewhere. There's definitely a bit of me. I am a contrarian, so I love a kind of, well, if you're saying no, let's find out why that is. Like some ridiculous things like the deposit return scheme, where at one point that looked very frightening to us, and I was like, okay, let's just not. Jason's doing a hand signal, which is the same one he does when I mention the festival we don't name, which is
100%. 100%. I'm glad you picked up
on
on
labels.
what I was putting down.
It was a point. So I really enjoyed also the idea of having not like a complete autonomy, but like you two allow me so much freedom. I mean, the very fact that I've created a whole Hallmark movie about the two of you and told it to hundreds of people in Germany, and you've actually never heard the version of it, I think is great. And long will that continue. I like that I can, we are a team, although we're spread out afar. We do come together and work on things like the design. I know lots of things about sourcing dry goods for bottlings of whiskey that I never, in my wildest dreams, thought would be a part of this job. I can tell you all about measuring screw caps. I can tell you about rotating images on labels. I can tell you, there's lots of like funny bits. So it's fun for me, even on my desk here under my screen, the kind of evolution of the brand that I've been following initially from afar and then coming in house and being on the inside of how the sausage is made is it's a real joy to do it. That's why I'm so excited about the next things. Now that I'm into it, I'm fully into the new version of us.
Very excited.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
That the viewers to this podcast will notice that Josh and Jason are wearing very snazzy new shirts. And I did not read the memo, and therefore I'm not wearing mine. But these came all the way over in my suitcase and were hand delivered to you by USPS.
Beautifully.
Which is a lovely little spoiler for the next version of our bottle. So
but we haven't showed. You're skipping.
I forgot that you have magic buttons. Sorry, carry on.
Well, no, not just that, but you've skipped over what has become the third iteration of packaging, which is now the Oslo Apotek with what is now our old logo.
Yep, screen printed,
and then we went with our screw top, which still remains my favorite of all tops. I'm gonna go to the grave with this being my favorite of all tops.
I'm with you. I did such a hard job of selling screw tops. Don't even come to me with those. The unofficial name for the glass tops, which Jason's pointed out. I'm with Joshua on the screw tops. I have sold them to loads of people as the adult version of Pogs. And that is a great way of identifying if people are in your tasting who are not old enough to be drinking alcohol because they don't know what a pog is, and you can ask them to leave immediately.
And I'm holding in my hands not just my favorite SCN bottling of 2024, their Tobermory 16, but I think my favorite Tobermory of ever bottled. Period. Oh gosh, this is so good. This is going to be my next pour, by the way. If I can find my glass. But yeah, so this was the next iteration, right? This was us. I kind of like this idea of us growing up, right? Of us, just if you're a parent, a mother, a father, a guardian, whatever, right? And you've got your infant, your toddler, your teenager, those lanky years, and and you just you see your children, or even if you're an auntie or you're an uncle or something, you're right. You see that child growing up. It's really nice to see this evolution of your children, and here we are. This is like, I feel as if this child has graduated university and is going out into the world and is become an adult finally. That's what this particular packaging, this particular bottling feels like to me.
Yeah, I really like the fact that we could have a consistent, normal gray colored cask on the screen printed front. Mm-hmm. And then we moved the color to the band on the bottom of the label. As much as I understood why we colored the cask, even if we never explained it to anybody, and as much as, yes, it made it pop across a shelf, I really liked having a logo on a bottle that you could set your watch by while introducing colored bands on the bottom. And I will add my voice to your voices, which is that screw cap has done remarkably well for itself. The feedback has been consistently terrific. As much as some people, when they first hear of a screw cap, screw up their nose a little bit, and then they feel it, they twist it, they turn it. It really feels like something. I will say the glass Vinosil, the glass stopper that I held up, I'm not meeting people who are sad to see the back of that. And that's one, personally, I like it. I understand it sticks like a Westland screw cap from back in the day. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of people not sad to see the back. However, with that said, I am still excited about the change we have made to the new packaging design, and the fact that we will have top, capsule, screen print, label, colored band. There's going to be such consistency there across the line. For us here in the US, for Jess in global markets, for our friends obviously up in Canada, there's some nice consistency coming about there for that retail label. So I don't know if we've talked enough to have reached the point of reveal.
I think we have. Jess, do you want to try to show yours, or should I show my? First, you show yours so we can see the physicality.
There we go.
If I do like the Instagrammers do, if I put my hand behind it, you can kind of.
More.
No, I like that it's not. It doesn't want to cooperate. This is fun.
Yeah, look at
this
that.
This is also not a fault irritating.
Oh, here, let me see if I can.
Logo on that one.
Look at that. There we go.
Oh my gosh! Hey. Yeah, we go for viewers. Jess has got the full screen.
21-year-old Bowmore. Look at that.
Ooh la la. And there's that beautiful Isla colored band along the bottom there.
Yeah, my favorite kind of. Well, it's not quite. This has changed the tint slightly, but I was calling it like an almost Tiffany's blue, which is my favorite color.
There you go. I was thinking periwinkle blue, but I like that Tiffany's blue.
It's not fully Tiffany's blue, but it's not. I'd say it's slightly greener, but that's my favorite color. So very pleasing to me to see it on a bottle, especially today's version that it's on Delicious 21-year-old Bowmore. But look at this also on. Is that a Glendronach for you guys or a Glendronach for me?
Yeah, this one's coming to the US. It's a 14-year-old Glendronach, and it's tough to see on this picture. Let's see if I can zoom in. Yeah, well, that's the STR PX Barrique that's going to be coming out. But yeah, right. So this is our new packaging right here with our new logo, and it's this whiskey is not just graduated university. It's got its first job. It is now a contributing member to society. It's paying taxes. It's doing good in the world.
And I even see the beginning of the flavometer peeking its nose around the right side of that label there. So the usual cask details in a beautiful presentation with a very strong number on there. and then the distillery name, and then that very strong, modernized version of the new logo.
Yeah, that's one thing that I didn't particularly love about this packaging is that you had the distillery there, but then you had to turn the label to see the age. And I like that the new packaging is the age is right there in the center.
Yeah, the reorganization of that label, I think, is meaningful. And why when we were talking earlier about where did we start, what story was the label telling about the cask, there's that meaningful evolution over the years where, even from the original online packaging, the number was front and center in the middle of the label, to then the gray label kind of pushed that off into the banner underneath the Single Cask Nation logo. And now here in retail and in the online package. Do you have the new online package? I know we've been sharing that over email for a good while.
Yeah, I do.
And there you go. Look at that consistency with that strong use of the age right in the middle of the attached label. Yeah.
So I've been explaining in my markets that some of the rebrand, because some people have seen our new packaging.
Of course.
Some of our rebrand is to help unify what happens elsewhere in the world. So having the online exclusive packaging, the new version, definitely looks alike to our retail packaging, whereas previously they were sort of you could see it, but not. This is a really strong visual cue with the colors and I think much more kind of unified presentation of it, that it makes sense for the online packaging in the US to come kind of up to date, I think. I know Jason's a big fan of it, but I really like this version that, it kind of tidies it all up. So it's fun to me see in 2025 going into 26 and beyond that we've got a nice kind of unification of that coming in and here's the word for you, Jason, restaging.
Beautiful.
I met some marketing people this weekend who've told me that restaging is in fact the correct word to be using here.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. Restaging really works for me. But again, as you're talking, the consistency there and the common thread of Single Cask Nation through retail and online, there's that colored band representing the region coming to the online exclusive bottles as well, right? And so we get to teach about the colors one time, and they will be across. I do always like to clarify for some who would ask the follow-up question, we have not changed our policy on single casks, which is an online exclusive. Single cask is only available online exclusive. Jess's global market casks are only global markets, and the US retail casks are only US retail. Now, may we have fun in the future? Who knows what the future holds? Who knew there would be a restaging? But you can bet your bottom dollar that when you see this livery, we are telling consistent stories across our regions as we divide Single Cask Nation. It's I had that question just at the weekend from somebody at a tasting. Oh, you don't split casks? No. Been saying it since 2017. We don't split casks.
What have I been saying for 8 years? No.
You get them told.
Right. But again, and you and I have been talking about this in separate extras, Joshua, but look at the representation of the nation on the online exclusive label. Like, look at that celebration, for all of those people for whom we've been saying, you are the nation, right? You are the nation. Now we're showing you, you're on these labels, you're on the banners as we're going around festivals. There have been some other special releases around the nation this week, this celebratory week as well. So, we don't sit here without the nation and shining the light back on the nation, especially on a fun label, email marketing, festival banners. It feels really cool to be showing off the nation, who we talk about all the time and are so proud of.
100%. Because without them, there is no Single Cask Nation. It just is as simple as that. And it wouldn't be special. It just wouldn't be.
Really, really exciting. The fact that we can go from a telephone conversation in a car in November 2010 to be sitting here with 10,000 in the nation in the US, more global nation fans who Jess gets to interact with more regularly than we do, and now having our home within ASC and having our casks. The future is incredibly bright for Single Cask Nation and for One Nation Under Whisky podcast as well.
Future's so bright, we should all be wearing shades.
What a celebration. Really fantastic. Really, really, really fantastic. And honestly, for the three of us, we're going to make $1 million any day now. Any day. Any
it's pending.
day.
I've got it all in
Any
Bitcoin.
day.
We're fine.
It's coming. Any day now. Any day. Cut to 15 years in the future. Is it today, Jason?
Well, until that day comes, we can continue to ask viewers, we can continue to ask listeners to please subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, whatever your platform of choice is. Please subscribe, tell your friends, tell your loved ones, share the word, and let people know about Single Cask Nation. If you love whiskey, if they love whiskey, share the news. We'd love to bring more people into the nation. It really means a lot to us. It's not just a business, it's a community. And we love to, right? We love to bring people into the fold. So subscribe, tickle the little bell down below to be alerted of new videos. And on that note, I'm going to raise glasses.
Oh, wait.
Say, yeah, Jess, you got to get your glass. We say, cheers, big ears.
Cheers to all in the nation.
To all in the
Love
nation.
it.
Cheers.
Need a little clank too. Delightful.
That's great. That looks like a super secret corner of Isla, so it definitely does double duty.
The photograph has Hans's jumping off pier kind of coming out my head. I apparently don't have any other background saved on StreamYard, so that's what you get.
Okay, so this is like you've come out of the sauna and then you go there and you jump in the water. Is that what that is?
The irony is actually none of them have saunas. You just have to throw yourself in the sea.
Oh. Doesn't that take away from the whole process?
The sea is extremely cold. I can't imagine it getting any better when you're toasty hot. I have done it before. I've done it where they've cut holes in the ice. And it's really a great way to check how strong your heart is.
Yep. Hard pass.
All right. I'm Glass Will podcast.
All right. Ready?
Right.
I even wore, look at this. I even wore yellow beneath this to get the SCN yellow to go with the SCN red. See that?
There we are. Living in the future.
He's thought about it.